Golden Valley Historical Society and would like to welcome you all here tonight for our program on a Golden Valley legend, a community legend, the Golden Valley Girls Softball. So we're about to hear a really exciting program, I think, tonight. But before that, I've got 3 announcements. The first announcement is about our next program. So our next program is on May 7th at 6 o'clock, so it's at a slightly different time, and it's off-site. So it's a walk-through, a walking program at Grazier Park, and we are doing this in conjunction with the Robbinsdale Historical Society. Andrea Weber, who is the manager of the MnDOT Historic Roadside Property and Waysides program, will conduct this guided walking tour of the renovations in Grazier Park and the history of the park and why it's so important to our collective community. So if it's raining, and we hope it's not, so cross your fingers, it'll be here. Otherwise, we'll be walking, so just keep that in mind. There is a little bit of an ambulatory component to that. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 is, I said if it is raining, it'll be here in our historic church. One of the biggest challenges that we have as the Golden Valley Historical Society is keeping up this 1882 building. And our 1882 building, which is one of the oldest structures in Golden Valley, needs a little bit of maintenance, needs a little bit of water damage repair, and some HVAC upgrades. So we are looking for all of you to help us out, please. There is a donation box in the back. Give generously if you can. If you didn't bring anything tonight but would like to give, our website has a donate button on it, and we'd value your input for that. And then finally, that's really important, that's an ask, that's a call to action there, folks. But finally, April, as you probably know, is National Volunteer Month. And GVHS is an all-volunteer organization. We value our volunteers so much. They greet at the museum, they are our event people, they are our board members. You could be those volunteers as well. So if you're a current or have been a volunteer for the Historical Society, could you put your hand up? Put your hand up, folks. Okay, thank you all. We want to thank all of those volunteers and invite you to come be a volunteer with us. So if you want to get to any of those people that put their hands up, if you don't know who put your hand up, just ask and they'll tell you. We'd love to have you help us with events, with being a museum greeter or being a board member, and our board members are some of our most valued volunteers because they bring a lot of their time and intellectual talent and sometimes connections, and we are in their debt. So tonight we have an amazing speaker, but right now it's my pleasure to introduce another board member, Carla Rose, who's going to introduce tonight's speaker.
Yes, and I'm not a very good speaker like Lynn is, but I'll do the best I can. I'm really so excited to see everybody here. This is a labor of love for me because obviously, many of you know I've been on the board of Golden Valley Girls Softball. My daughter played for 10 years. I still sponsor in the league, and it's just really near and dear to my heart, and it has been for a very long time. So I'm very excited to hear all that Bob has to say. A little bit about Bob, my friend Bob here. He started when your daughter started playing. He has 2 daughters. Two daughters that played. One for 10 years and one for 5 years.
5, I think.
5 years. Bob
She
coached.
could confirm.
Bob coached for 13 seasons, and then also once he got done coaching, he moved into the umpire position. Umpired for very many years. That's how I kind of knew Bob. 10 years as an umpire's representative. He served on the board of directors as the sponsorship director, same position I was in for a little while. And then he's also umped for the men's league, girls leagues, and state tournaments. So he's, The league's been around for over 50 years now. As many of you know, we just had the 50-year anniversary, and Bob's been here for more than half of those years, I think, right? Yeah, so he's got a great depth of knowledge of the league, and I'm just so excited to listen to him share all of his knowledge and the history of girls softball in Golden Valley with us. So without further ado.
Got this, so we turn this on. Okay. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Yeah, that seems to work well. Well, thank you, Carla. Yes, I've been involved with the Girls Softball League for quite a while, and when I was towards the end of my coaching career, I thought to myself, well, where did this come from? It's such a unique organization. And it really is. As youth sports organizations go, this one is unique. It is focused on the kids rather than the parents, rather than making a varsity team or playing in college. It's structured that way, and it's been that way for a long time. So I was really curious about how did it come about, how did it get so well organized even when I joined it. So I decided to dig into it, and the result was the book, The Game is for the Girls. Copies are available. This is actually the third edition, the 50th anniversary edition. We did one at before the 40 years, and then at the 40-year anniversary, we did an update. So this has got all the information in it up to 2022, or 2023, which was the 50th anniversary of the league. The league is about to start its 52nd season in Golden Valley, which is pretty exciting. And it's great to see you all here. I know about half of you. There are at least 4 former and current presidents of the league here tonight, which is really exciting. Board members, former board members, coaches, players, kids I coached. This is really fun. I had no idea how everybody who showed up was going to show up. So thanks for coming, and I hope you learn a little. I certainly did as I went through it. So let me start out by talking a little bit about softball and about how the league started. Before 1974, the first game of Golden Valley Girls Softball, there was softball in Golden Valley. The Park and Rec organization, Park and Rec department, had softball teams, girls softball teams, at every park. And it was good that they had them because there was no other team sport for girls back then. There was nothing. I graduated from high school in 1966. There were no girls' sports in high school. If you wanted to be on the gym floor, you had to have a cheerleader's uniform on if you were a girl. It was a whole different time, and it was not good. There were some individual sports for girls, but there was nothing organized. In the 70s, it started to change. And Title IX was a big driver. We all heard about Title IX that came in 1972. It basically said there had to be equal opportunities for girls and women in federally funded organizations, and it was quickly interpreted to mean that colleges had to have women's sports programs. And that changed everything. But it was changing already. I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember the Pepe case. There was a famous case, and maybe I knew about it because I was in law school at the time. It happened in New Jersey in 1972. Young girl, Maria Pepe, wanted to pitch in the Little League game, and she did. National Little League found out about it, told the New Jersey Little League organization, if you don't kick her off the team, we're going to pull your charter. So she couldn't play anymore. She sued, and in 1974, the New Jersey Supreme Court said, hey, you have to let girls play baseball in Little League. Well, Little League didn't quite know what to do with that, but they had to do something. So they said, okay, girls can play, but they also said, we're going to form a softball division of Little League. And indeed they did. It went nationally, and it is still around, but it's mostly fast pitch now. Locally, Golden Valley High School started girls' sports in the early 1970s, the same trend. In fact, some of the people who founded Golden Valley Girls Softball forced the high school to get into more girls' sports. It became more and more common. But there still were not great opportunities back in the early 70s. Is this working? Oh, I'm pressing the wrong button. There we go. So anyway, girls started playing baseball, but most girls didn't want to play baseball. They wanted to play softball. And that happened here and elsewhere around the country. So, and also, people were suspicious about girls playing baseball. This is a quote from the Golden Valley Sun in June 1974, about the time Golden Valley Girls Softball started. Now, I'll just read it. I'll read you the last sentence, which is great. Male defeat at the hands of a female should not come until much later in life. I don't want my son losing to a girl, or even playing with one. So it's ironic now, you know, women are worried about men playing their sports. Back then, men were worried about women playing their sports. This was a cartoon in the same edition. I hope you can see it. The sign says the Bobby Riggs Memorial Field. I don't know if you remember what Bobby Riggs was. He was the tennis player that played Billie Jean King and got beat. And the caption says, maybe obvious sexual differences is why I can't hit, but my name is Robert, not Roberta. You've got Robert batted cleanup.
Roberta.
Roberta batted cleanup. So there was a lot of suspicion about girls playing baseball, and girls wanted to play softball. So in 1974, 5 moms from Golden Valley, and I'll name them because they were very important at the start of this: Helen Pfefferly, Jean Castor, Joyce Wold, Helen Denson, and Katie Reiser went to the Little League organization and said, we want to start a girls softball league, a girls softball organization. Fortunately, the Little League dads also had daughters, and they said, okay, we'll try to do something. And they did. Helen Pfefferly is still with us. I talk about what she told me in the book. Katie Reiser has passed away, but she was the father of 3 Reiser girls, one of whom married Jerry Woodhill, who some of you I'm sure know, who was very involved in the league for years and years. They also owned Schuler's at the time when Schuler's was a big sponsor. So these people were really key to starting the league. So they did start it as a division of Golden Valley Little League. The first game was on June 4th, 1974. It was played at Olson Field. It's an important date. It's a big deal, I think. There were only 6 teams at the time. The girls were from 9 to 12 years old. They played, I think, 10 games. But they loved it. They really had fun. They all came back. The next year they expanded it. The girls from extended it to girls from 9 to 15 years old. Started a senior division, girls 13 to 15, and all of a sudden they had 12 teams. So, but they were still part of Little League. But they had their own rules. And these rules were important because they really formed the basis of the values that are still in the league, still part of Golden Valley Girls Softball, and part of what I think makes it very unique. At the time, all the team managers had to be women. The mothers had to run the teams. Men could be coaches, but every team was run by a woman. They said very clearly the game had to be slow pitch. They were not, even though fast pitch was coming along at the time, they wanted a slow pitch league because slow pitch is easier to participate in. Tryouts were skills evaluations only. Every girl was placed on a team, no cuts. That's still true. That's still true. there was a new draft. They did this right at the beginning, a new draft every year. Very important, because every year a child is on a different team. The girl's on a different team. She makes a whole new set of friends, has new coaches, has new experience. In Little League, when I played, you were drafted by a team when you were 10 years old, and you were on that team till you were 12 or 13. Oh,
We've lost our image.
We've lost
Oh,
our
I'm
image.
sorry.
Wondering if
Try unplugging the HDMI cord and plugging it back in.
Just unplug it and plug it
Yep.
back in.
Let's try that.
Yeah, come on.
There we
we
go.
go.
Oh, is it back? Okay. Let me put it on the slideshow. Okay. And for those of you who've been in the league, you've experienced that. Every spring you find out what team your kid is on, and all of a sudden she's got 12 or 15 new friends. Minimum playing time. Back then it was each girl played 2 innings. A lot of coaches didn't like that. A lot of coaches didn't want to play their weaker kids. But it was a requirement of the league. They all wore Little League uniforms. They had the Little League patches. Stealing bases wasn't allowed because it's not part of slow pitch. But back then the rules were not real firm. The league was not part of a sanctioned organization, so they had to put in rules to keep people from doing very competitive stuff, like stealing bases in slow pitch, which just doesn't work. So here's a picture of a kid, I don't know who this is, it was probably taken in 74, 75, in the Little League uniform. And there's a Little League scoreboard in the background. That was one of the first Golden Valley girls softball slow pitch players, okay? They emphasize these values: skill development, teamwork, being on a team, learning all the things that being on a team can teach, sportsmanship, making friends, and having fun. Notice a couple things aren't on there. Winning isn't on there. Being very competitive isn't on there. Getting a D1 scholarship isn't on there. So, and the founders struggled constantly to uphold these values. And the struggle continued and continues. It's still an issue with some coaches. The Little League culture, when I was involved, and I think it's still true, was very competitive. And boys are different from girls in the way they treat mistakes and in the way they play, and coaches also. So they had to deal with that constantly and turn the league into a league that emphasized these kinds of values, and they were successful doing it. So gradually the league became more independent. By 75, 76, they had a separate committee on the board of directors of Little League, and they started gradually separating away from Little League, although they were part of the Little League organization. In 1981, which was 7 years after the league formed, they finally split away from Little League and formed what is now the corporate entity of Golden Valley Girls Softball. That was formed in 1971 or 1981. At that time, the girls division was bigger than the boys. They had 16 teams, the boys had 13 teams. And that was all kids in Golden Valley at the time. That was still part of the baby boom, so there were more kids then probably than there are now. But it just emphasized, I think, the effectiveness of the leadership and the appeal of the game and the organization to the kids in Golden Valley. In 1980s, the challenges continued. And the values and the culture that the founders put in place had to be reinforced, had to be enforced, and they did. They made some big changes. Everyone was still placed on a team, regardless of skill. That's still true. This is a great place for kids to start learning how to play ball. The playing time rule was revised to at least 3 innings and 1 time at bat. The pitching arc was enforced to make sure that kids are throwing slow pitches and not modified pitches or fast pitches. Round robin batting, that was a big deal. When I read board minutes, there was a lot of fights about round robin batting. Round robin batting, for those of you who don't know, it means everybody on the roster bats. So you can have 14 kids in the batting order, even though 9 or 10 kids are playing in the field. And that goes along with free substitutions, where kids can go in and out different positions. They don't have to worry about coming out and being out of the game and that kind of thing. And it's all about letting kids play. But this was a big deal. A lot of people didn't want round robin batting because they wanted their weakest hitters only hitting once. Unlimited foul balls, that's different from most softball organizations. But again, it's part of development. Kids hit foul balls, let them hit foul balls, instead of being out after they hit 1 or 2. Free substitution, no intentional walks. This is another thing that started very early in the league, and is probably still going on, where pitchers would try to pitch around the best hitters on the other team. There's a rule against it. As an umpire, I can tell you it's almost impossible to enforce, because I'm not clairvoyant. But sometimes it was pretty easy to tell when it was going on. And just controlling the coaches. Also, another big controversy, most people don't remember this, but it was a big discussion at the time, was going to 11-inch softballs. You know, the standard softball for fast pitching for men's is a great big thing. And it's a 12-inch diameter. If you look at the ball the girls play with, it's smaller. And it fits their hand better. And it's just a better ball for the girls' game. And adopting that, though, was controversial. The league in the 1980s, with new leadership, the number of players sunk down. In the book, in the back, you'll see, I've got a list of the number of teams each year, and you'll see in 1981, 1982, it drops off. In 1985, 1986, it went down to 13 teams. So it was getting smaller and smaller. So they had to work very hard to recruit players and volunteers back then. They had to open up to other suburbs, which they did, which was controversial also because Little League was confined to Golden Valley. The league actually was almost disbanded in 1985. A letter went out to everybody participating saying, we need volunteers, we have to fill these positions. Fortunately, people responded. The league came back up, and the subsequent years, it really flourished. By the way, this is a 30,000-foot view of the history of Golden Valley Girls Softball. And I'm going fast, and I'm already looking at the clock. But the details are all in the book. So you can read much more detail than I can possibly cover here. I will mention one name. One of the presidents back in that period of time, her name was Vicki Liba. She actually came to a tournament once, and I got to meet her, and I interviewed her. She was key in recruiting players, or recruiting coaches and volunteers. She was key in keeping the league alive, and she was very key in the next thing I'm going to talk about. She was a real leader. She kept the league going. And she deserves a mention, because without what she did back in 1982, 83, 84, I don't think Golden Girls Softball would be here today. This is an interesting part of the history of the league. There was a group of coaches in the league in the 1980s who really wanted the league to become a fast pitch league. And they pressed hard. They wanted to either have it a fast pitch league or have it a fast pitch division. By that time, fast pitch was established in colleges, was established in high schools, and they wanted Golden Valley Girls Softball to be a feeder program for high school. A lot of debates, a lot of discussions. A letter went out to the entire parent group saying, what do you want to do? And interestingly, most parents either didn't want fast pitch or didn't care enough to say we want fast pitch. And in 1987, the coaches who advocated fast pitch split off, started their own organization. That's the same organization that's Cooper Armstrong Fast Pitch today, and it's still a competitor for participants in Golden Valley Girls Softball, as Amanda, our current president, can tell you. But they're still around. They're still a competitor, but they were a bunch of coaches who didn't like the way Golden Valley Girls Softball was going and wanted a fast pitch league. Thank God they didn't. Fast pitch is a different game. It's a game that allows for a lot less participation, especially as kids get older. And there are a lot of girls who don't want to play fast pitch for a whole variety of reasons. I also personally believe that any kid under 12 years old is better off playing slow pitch in terms of learning the skills of softball, because slow pitch is a much more active game, especially at that age. There's a lot more happening in slow pitch than fast pitch from about age 12 down. I could talk about that for an hour, but I won't. So in 1985, the board adopted this purpose statement. I won't read the whole thing to you, but emphasis on slow pitch, emphasis on the league not being a feeder to high school programs, rather being a recreational program and one that people can learn skills, they can play softball as they get older. My younger daughter still plays. She's 35, Kathy? She's still playing. And the league's purpose, look at that. Organized and interesting softball program. We teach skills, teamwork, sportsmanship. The same values that had started over 10 years earlier with the founders. And these were all different people. The founders were pretty much gone by 1985. So, in 1990s, things really started to change. The league became more active recruiting girls from other suburbs, especially the Robbinsdale School District. The league started really dominated by kids from Golden Valley, and particularly the Meadowbrook part of Golden Valley. Most of the founding mothers were mothers of Meadowbrook kids. But it changed radically, and now, and for many years, the majority of the participants are in the Robbinsdale School District. There are still quite a few in the Hopkins School District, but it's become more of an organization that basically went north. Should emphasize this, the fees have always been incredibly low for GVGS. And compared to any other youth sports organization, it is a screaming deal. I think when we started, it was maybe $50 per kid and $40 for the second kid, and now it's about 150, I think.
160 and 99 for new players.
Okay, so I mean it's still incredibly inexpensive, and the reason is it's a volunteer organization. Nobody gets paid except the umpires, and a real effort, especially in recent years, to do fundraising. By the book, it's a fundraiser, and let kids play. And I think it's still true, it certainly was when I was there. If a kid couldn't afford it, the league made it happen. So anybody who wanted to play could play. So the ages were expanded in the 90s, up to 16-year-olds, and then 3 years later they went to 18-year-olds. So there are 2 divisions from grades 3 through 6, and 7 through 12 now, which is a very different kind of team organization than almost any other league. Other leagues are 12 under, 14 under, 16 under, that kind of thing. This is unique. And I think it's very good because you have kids of different ages playing on the same team. And it's a good thing, I think. But the number of teams grew. In 1989, there were 19 teams. By 2000, there were 28 teams. So it grew almost exponentially, and because it was so popular. And there was a lot of pressure on the fields in Golden Valley at that point. I mean, Little League has always used a lot of fields. Soccer came along, the Phoenix Soccer Organization. They needed field space. And of course, girls softball needed more field space. One thing that did happen in the late 90s was Shocker Field opened up. And that's a whole story in itself, how the Shocker Fields were developed, the 2 softball fields on Olson Highway. But the reason they developed was to try to get a place for adults to play softball. And at that point, adults are playing at Lions Park. And Lions Park was too small and frankly too intimate for men's adult softball. So Shocker was built. It was a controversy with the neighborhood. Some people didn't want it. Some people lobbied very hard against it. The people who were proponents of it got all these sports organizations together to go to the Open Spaces Commission and go to the City Council asking for these fields to be built. And the result was sort of a typical political solution. Golden Valley Girls Softball got 1 field, Lions 1 to play on. Little League got 1 field, Lions 2. And the soccer organization got the South 2 fields for their activities. And some of you may remember when Lions was split up that way. And we only had 1 field at Lions in the evenings. The league always had their tournaments at Lions Park and still do. But the growth wasn't over. In 2011, there were 43 teams. So from 2000 to 2011, it just kept going up and up and up and up and up. But the league maintained the same philosophy, the same mission. I think that was very important. The leadership each year adopted basically the same philosophy. And the people who were more competitive, more interested in their kids, more interested in reliving their youth or whatever, were always outvoted by people who were really interested in making the experience as good as they could for the girls. This is the mission statement from the 2000s. Okay. Instructional, recreational, slow pitch. And that was the first time the term, the game was for the girls, turned up in anything I saw. I didn't make it up. It came from that, and it was something that people said a lot. So, but that growth period, I think Jim Acker is here. He was president for quite a few years. There he is. You remember when we had that many teams?
I do remember that. My biggest fear at the time was with 550 girls was 1,100 parents.
Yeah. No kidding. But the fields were a real headache. I mean, we were playing on Monday nights, and the scheduling of the tournaments was just a nightmare with that many teams. So it's probably a little too big, but it demonstrated the popularity of the league and of the concept, I think. But this put a lot of pressure on the fields in Golden Valley. I was on the Open Spaces Commission at the time, and we were talking constantly about, what do we do with this huge girls softball program? We've got a Little League. We've got the soccer program, which was growing. It was a real issue. And the problem basically was that Golden Valley Girls Softball was playing on really bad fields. We played most of our games, or a lot of our games, at Medley Park and at Sandburg. And a lot of you more recent GVGS folks don't remember Sandburg or maybe Medley. And Sandburg was a nightmare. There were no fences. The benches were just out in the middle of nowhere. There was a backstop. The infield was sand. I mean, like beach sand. And the outfield was cow pasture. It was rough, it was tough. There was a big hill on the left side, so if the ball got hit, foul to the left, it would roll down the hill towards Douglas Drive. It was just a terrible, terrible place to play. But there was no alternative. And I remember many games there where I was in fear because the kids were sitting on the bench with no fence in front of them. Medley wasn't much better, especially Medley 2, the west field, was a swamp. And in fact, they converted it into a swamp. Thank you, that was the word I was looking at. In the book there's a chapter about the history of the parks in Golden Valley, and especially the parks that the league used. And most of them originally were swamps. When Golden Valley was developed, the developers would build houses where the land was good, and they'd give the swamps to the city for parks. Now, Lions Park was a dump for the city of Minneapolis for many years, and they spent years rehabbing it to the point where it could be a park. I wouldn't recommend anybody digging 5 feet down at Lions Park. You don't want to know. But Medley was a recovered swamp. Wesley was a recovered swamp. Hampshire, one field at Hampshire floods all the time. But these were the fields that we had to play on because there was nowhere else to play. We couldn't play Lions consistently because of soccer. Little League had really nice fields and got 2 more, which I'll talk about in a minute. Girls softball was really getting the butt end of the stick on this. And we talked about it a lot at the Open Spaces and Recreation Commission, what to do. What did happen was, in 2012, the city, along with Little League, got a grant to build 2 new fields at Isaacson Park. This is the one by the old Honeywell building. There was one field there for quite a few years. Honeywell sold the park to the city, and then subsequently 2 fields were built with a Hennepin County grant, city money, and some Little League money. Those are really nice parks. But it didn't really help much because as a result, Little League gave up 1 field, Lions won. So now Golden Valley Girls Softball had 2 fields of Lions instead of 1, which helped some, but it still didn't get us off of Medley. Medley, I should say, is now actually a holding pond, Medley 2. It was sinking the whole time I played it. Second base had to be on a grade at least 18 inches below home plate. And the outfield was very rough. Many of you remember playing there. It was risky business. And I saw kids get hurt there, especially in the outfield. Medley 1 was a nice little park. It was actually a fun place to play because it was very intimate. The fans were right there. There was a nice berm, there was shade. It was really pretty. But the outfield was only 180 feet. So any kid who could hit it, even the juniors, would hit it up this hill 180 feet away into the woods. And the umpire had to call ground rule double. Well, it should have been a home run, usually. And it was just too small. It worked pretty good for Little League, but Little League didn't want it. So anyway, we saw the problem. And we being the Open Spaces Commission. And the Park and Rec Department also saw the problem. So I have to give great kudos to my friend John Cornelius and Rick Bruno, who was the director of Park and Rec at the time, to really attack this problem and come up with a solution. And Rick Bruno was instrumental in coming up with this plan and then executing it. Basically what happened was in 2013, the city went to the Hennepin County Youth Sports Organization that has this grant program for athletic fields for young people, and said, we need to do something. And the solution was to take Sandburg and turn it into a soccer complex. They also fixed up the baseball fields there at the time. And now it's a very nice soccer complex, but they had to take out all the dirt. It took 2 years to regrow it. It was a major, major project. The cost of it, I don't recall immediately, but I think it was in the $300,000 to $500,000 range. It took 2 years. But the result was that the soccer organization left Lions Park. Golden Valley Girls Softball was able to get the other 2 fields at Lions for evening games. And it changed everything. 2014, we played our first 4 games in the evening at Lions Park. I still remember that night. I was crying. Because it took a year, it took 10 years to get all of this done and planned and get people to buy into it. It was a major thing, and I think it really changed the character of the league in terms of facilities. We finally had facilities that were comparable to the very nice fields that Little League was playing on and that youth baseball was playing on. But the fields were still not really up to par. As some of you will recall, the dugouts weren't very nice. The fence extensions off of the backstops didn't go all the way behind first base and third base. So any throw to first base would go out of bounds. The fields really needed an upgrade. So in 2020, again, we got another youth sports grant, and we were able to upgrade the fields. Both Lions, Wesley, and Shopper Field got upgraded too, to really good fields. And now the dugouts are much better, the fence extensions are much better. I also have to give a shout out to the grounds people at Golden Valley for how they take care of the parks that the teams play on. Even though they flood out and there is frustration sometimes, those fields are much better than most fields that I've seen in other places I've umpired. And they just do a phenomenal job with fields that are inherently hard to deal with. Because Lions Park, especially Lions 2, is part of the swamp. And if the work didn't continue, it would revert to swamp. They do a terrific job. One thing I wanted to mention is that throughout the history of the league, the Golden Valley Park and Rec Department has been a key partner in supporting the league and all the things that the league has done over the years. It still is. They've been terrific. I could go on and on about all the things that they've done and the park maintenance people have done to make the facilities great and help the league. It's all in here. So, like I said, this is a 30,000-foot view, but I couldn't go on without mentioning that. They've been terrific partners. So, in the late 2000s, like everybody else, we hit a bump. COVID happened, and girls softball struggled a lot. Lenny Siegel was here. He was president at the time when this happened in 2020. And from January to probably May or April or May of 2020, the debates went on and on and on about, can we have a season? What are we going to have to do? Do we have to cancel the season? What is the city going to do? It was a tough time. And it was tough for everybody. It was tough for all the sports organizations and everybody else. I mean, COVID was just hard. Ultimately, the season was canceled. A lot of people were very disappointed, but it had to be done. But two other people who are here, and Lenny, and Steve, Reed, and Amanda, and others decided, hey, we're still gonna play some softball. And they put together pickup games on, what was it, Wednesday nights? I forget. That kids could come and play, and they had all kinds of COVID protocols in place. Cleaning balls and bats and this and that, most of which was probably unnecessary given what they've discovered about COVID since then. But they played, and they had a tournament. And the tournament was a huge success. I remember being there. It was a lot of fun. Kids got to play softball. And those three back there in the corner get the credit for that. They did a terrific job, and they kept the league going, really, through a very, very difficult time. 2021, the participation did go down. There were only 18 teams in 2021 versus 28 in 2019. There's all kinds of reasons for that. I think a lot of it was people found other things to do. They forgot how much fun Gold Valley Girls softball is. Who knows? But it is coming back and slowly recovering. Every year since then, the number of teams have increased, and I think the folks are optimistic about this coming year and future years. And I'm optimistic, and I'll tell you why. There is a future for this league. It could go another 50 years, I hope it does. A big challenge is shortage of volunteers, which was something relatively new. Other summer activities have cut into people's willingness to participate. And slow pitch has declined. It's declined all over the metropolitan area, and it's generally declined. Maybe because of fast pitch, maybe because of other things to do. But I think that's exaggerated. I remember 20 years ago, people said golf was a dead sport. It came back, big time. Slow pitch is a great game. It's a great adult game. Kids love to play it. Adults love to play it. It's social. Anybody can play if they've got even minimal skills. And one of the great examples, I wish one of them were here tonight, is the West Metro Women's League, which you may have heard of. It started as the Golden Valley Women's League by Jesse Erickson and Allison Rempel and others. And this is an adult women's league. They played at Shopper, they now play in New Hope. And they have huge participation. A lot of teams, probably half of them are GV alumni. And it's great fun, people really enjoy it. And so softball is not dead. And I think it'll come back. I think slow pitch will come back. Another reason is that, frankly, the women are back. Amanda here is the first woman president of the league since 1997, I think. And there are a lot more women on the board, there are a lot more women coaches. When the league first started, most of the mothers didn't have a background in softball because they didn't play team sports. Well, now they do. A lot of moms who played in the league or played softball somewhere else who know the game can now coach. And that's coming back. So there are going to be more and more women. And the league is a higher quality than ever. We've got better facilities. There are skills clinics in the wintertime for kids. There are coaches clinics. I'll take a little credit for the upgrading of the umpires. At least last year we had a terrific umpiring crew, and that took a lot of work over the years. And it's got its culture. It's the culture that started in 1974. This is paraphrasing the mission statement that is in the current mission statement for the league. Every girl is placed on a team. Every girl plays every game. The emphasis is on building skills, sportsmanship, friendship, teamwork, and having fun. Having fun is a big part of it, okay? And everything about the way it's structured, the draft, the fact that kids play on different teams every year, round robin batting, the rules, they all support this mission to make sure the game is for the girls. So I'm very optimistic, and it'll be fun to watch as things develop over the next few years and Golden Valley Girls Softball continues to flourish, because it's a great organization, it's unique, and it deserves to do well and continue to help literally thousands of kids that have participated over the years. So that's what I've got to say. I went a little over, but questions, comments?
And we are recording, so two things. One is there are books for sale at the
Yes.
back of the room,
Absolutely.
which is
Yeah, I
your
forgot.
pitch here.
Yeah, I forgot the last part of my pitch. The book is basically a chronological account of the league, which I tried to give you quickly. But there are other things in it. There's a history of the parks that goes all the way back to the 30s and 40s. A chapter about the sponsors, a chapter about the umpires, a chapter about the traveling teams, which I didn't talk about at all, but I should have. Kids who are more competitive, who want a higher level of competition. There have been traveling teams available for many, many years. In the book, I talk about some memorable traveling teams. Even since I wrote that, there have been others. And the traveling teams literally dominate the traveling tournaments in Minnesota. They've won, I don't know how many, I mean, we've lost count. But when traveling teams from all over the metro show up and they see a Golden Valley team, they wish they had. They're good teams. Some of them have gone to national tournaments over the years. And some of the players have gone on to play in college and otherwise. So there's a chapter about the traveling teams. You can get the book on Amazon. You can buy it tonight. If you go on Amazon, put in "The Game is for the Girls" in that upper line, this will pop up. You can order a hard copy or you can order an ebook. The hard copy is better than the ebook, I think. The pictures are better, and I don't get anything out of it. It all goes to girls softball. So it's a fundraiser too. Thank you for reminding me.
No. So, thank you. And we are recording to put this on our YouTube channel at a future date. So if you've got a question, I've got a mic. We can bring the mic around so your question is captured for posterity. Questions?
I don't think you need a mic, but I'm just going to admit, I played the first year on the Pistons. Right. And I also played at Golden Valley High School for 4 years, but we became Hopkins my last year. And you're right about the fields, because the biggest problem at Lions Club was the ducks swimming in the infield. The same girlfriend, been there. So it matters. All you people know the time you spend. My girls were athletes. I've coached basketball. I've coached track and field. I've coached volleyball. So my girls are athletes. My husband was an athlete. And all we know is that without you parents showing up, we don't get to play. So keep up. And by the way, my niece is your city attorney, so she rocks too, so.
Wow. Really talking. Cool.
Anybody else want a testimonial or have a question? Thank you all for coming tonight. And Bob will be around a little bit after the program to answer any additional questions for reminiscence. And please do check out the book. Buy one tonight if you want to. We'll see you all at Grazier Park in May for a walkabout. Thank you so much for coming.